prepared you for this, but we have a theme song, so you'll get to review it after you hear it.
Okay, here we go.
That's John's voice, Chris.
Very nice.
Yeah, you can tell.
It sounds very European.
Yeah.
I was expecting banjos.
Right.
And Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, out in the middle of the United States here. Well, anyway, I am so fortunate. We all are fortunate that Chris was able to stop by tonight. We're in my studio. Chris is drawing, and my drawing board never had it so good. Chris is drawing under my lights, and at my drawing board, it's I can't say I'll never touch it again, but because I have to. But I'm really grateful Chris made the effort to come by and make it for tonight.
It all depends on how I do. If I don't do well, he may have to fumigate.
Cassandra, I'm on hiatus tonight. I get to watch, and I'm just going to talk.
Oh, what?
I thought this would be the best way to do it, and Chris and I have plenty to talk about. So I heard Chris told me last week that he was coming through, and so I asked him if he would draw with us, and I gave him the opportunity to pick the subject matter and pick the reference. And unbelievably, I would have never guessed it. He chose to draw baseball. And so tonight we got some really great reference. First one of Honus Wagner, who looks like he's 4 feet off the ground there. Second drawing is Hank Aaron. All of these, the first 2 poses are 20-minute poses, and then the third pose is a 40-minute pose. And so you can either draw Satchel Paige or Zach Wheat, or you could draw them both. And at the end, you can do this in between poses if you like, but please post your work on Instagram at #DrawingHive. And then we'll go through and look at all the work at the end. It's a really fun thing to do, to see how many interpretations of the same reference. And there's a lot of really terrific drawers that draw with us every week. And so thank you all. And we're ready to go, Timmy.
All right.
And I know, Timmy, you probably want to talk about what we're doing right now with Visual Arts Passage.
Oh yeah, we've always got so much going on, but right now we are enrolling for the summer semester. So and not only are we enrolling for the summer semester, well, not only is the bench stacked this summer, new artists teaching.
Yeah, read off our guest speakers.
Well, first off, super early bird enrollment, $200 off. So like right now, it's the time to sign up. But guest speakers, okay, the bench is so stacked. This is the craziest semester we're gonna have.
I'm ridiculously excited.
Zoe Frank, amazing artist. Cassandra sent me a dream list of artists to have teach. Zoe Frank was at the top.
Cool.
So nobody forget that I came through with that one.
Timmy, as soon as you announced it,
You're my hero for that.
as soon as you announced it, Timmy, Ray Bonilla was like, John, is it okay if I would come and sit? He got it like within minutes of what he saw. He made the call.
Did you send him the discount code?
Yeah. And he's just got to sign up for a class. No big deal.
Yeah. Okay, Zoe Frank. Wes Bird is making his return.
All right. Way cool. Very good.
Carla Ortiz.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
Wes Bird's an absolute killer. I went right over that because the list is so great, but Wes Bird's killer. Amazing concept artist. John, you were just raving about the latest book that just came out. It was one of the many Marvel books that Wes Bird's featured in. Carla Ortiz, an amazing concept artist, painter. She's been on CNN, not
lawyer.
very recently, was on CNN. as the talking head regarding AI copyright issues. So very topical, very informed guest. And then we got my buddy and amazing artist, Jeremy Collins, muralist, illustrator,
Awesome.
professional climber,
Professional thrill seeker.
God, he does it all. He the last time I think I saw him drawing, he was in a he was like parachuting. Yeah, that's actually what true. Iris Compiet, fantasy illustrator, painter, has done some amazing stuff, incredible fantasy art. And then Drew Tucker. Drew Tucker's got some, I mean, if you go to the website, you can see some of his like oil paintings and they're just mind-blowing. And then also Ashley Lovett is teaching ideation and visual storytelling.
Cool.
She'll be wonderful.
Just nonstop hits this
Yep.
summer. So if you are considering it, if you've been on the fence, this is definitely a semester to jump in on it, because I don't know how I'm gonna top the guest speaker list. It's every semester I work to try to make it a little bit better, but this one's gonna be tough. I don't know who we're gonna get next, because it's at an all-time high. So
It's always the fun challenge when you run a program is you get a great speaker list.
Well,
And then the goal is, how can I top it? And that's just that. And man, that's a fun challenge. It's a fun challenge. And you did it, man. Way to go, Timmy. Congratulations.
again, it's also, building relationships with these artists, which, I've known Wes for 12 years now. And, they buy into the program. Both Wes and Carla have taught at the Illustration Academy, and they're have been a part of our community and in part of the circle. So that's a big part of it. So I'm sitting here waiting for Chris to start drawing. I mean, I'm not drawing tonight, and Cassandra's, got a silhouette down.
Oh, we're starting. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to announce it. I thought this was a conversation. You were going to say, okay, let's get started. Okay. I better get started.
oh, here, you know what, Chris? Starting the clock now.
Right now, the clock just started.
Okay.
So just
Yeah.
I thought he was just letting me look okay for a moment before he like whooped my butt with his drawing.
Oh, you thought it was a head start.
Yeah, I thought it was just kindness.
So just so if you don't know Chris Payne's work, please CF Payne, look up his work. He is an iconic illustrator. Chris was inducted into the Society of Illustrators Hall of Fame. He's won the Hamilton King Award. He's won numerous awards for his children's books. Just an absolutely exceptional illustrator, painter, artist. I'm really fortunate to have had a long-term friendship with him. And then most importantly, I'm really fortunate to sit here and watch him draw.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And, thank you for letting me do this thing with baseball. Right. I think this is this era of baseball, these old timers. There's just something about their uniforms, the look, the folds, the daylight, kind of the way they played, the way they lived. It was a totally different time, and some really cool stuff.
So what is it?
Great players.
What is it about this reference that you chose that is so?
Well, first of all, I love the folds. I love the animation of this. I mean, this guy, all he's doing is, you can see that the guy behind him is the catcher. So he's scoring a run. He's just running across home plate. And you look at where the catcher's feet are and where he is. And so you draw a line down where approximately home plate would be. He's got to be 3 feet up in the air. It's just,
Well, he can jump. So
he was a freak. Well, and Wagner was a freak of nature. He really was. He was an amazing player. His body looked like his arms were big, huge, muscular arms. long,
he can
long
jump so
arms.
high because he's been carrying those huge hands around his
Well,
whole life. He's got the biggest hands I've ever seen.
And you ought to see the photos of his forearms, how big they were. And I'll be playing around with proportions whenever I draw these things. I'm always messing around with proportions. I'll make sometimes the head small, make the body big, make the big head big, make the body small, just play around with it. And it's just so much fun because then I get to use the folds. But these players, there's just something about their personalities. I think the way these guys most of them grew up on farms. And so they got the bodies and hands of farmers, these massive hands. And they just didn't go to baseball camps like kids do nowadays. They played it in a different time. I mean, there's a story about Wagner in a game where he played shortstop and a guy stole the base, came in, slid, and spiked him. He comes to the bench after, getting in, and he says, he's been cut. So look at it. He said, want to take him to the hospital. He said, no, we wanted to finish the game. So he went to his teammates and said, give me a plug of your tobacco. So this is back when people chewed tobacco. Took the plug of tobacco, strapped it over the cut, wrapped his leg up, finished the game. And after the game, went to the hospital. And I think they had to put in like 24 stitches or more.
Oh my gosh.
Into that wound.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's, I saw an interview just recently with Charles Barkley talking about the hockey player, I guess, who, finished a game and had like 60 stitches or something like that. And in the interview, Barkley said if somebody had 60 stitches in an NBA basketball game, he said the guy would retire that minute. He said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. But yeah, it was just a different time. And whether each one of these guys, and the other thing I love about these are the folds. That's what I love about these pictures.
And so obviously this is outside. It's a single light source.
Yeah.
They're just fabulous to draw from.
I mean, look at these pants. The folds are just gorgeous. And then the cast shadows, you got great form shadows, you got great cast shadows. So when you're just working on your drawing skills, finding quality pictures, material that's great to work from, that's key.
Yeah, it's a great place to look for reference.
And you don't have to try to get this photographic. I don't even make that attempt. That's okay. I'm just having fun with it. And if he's got big hands, I'm going to give him massive hands. I'm going to really play off of that, and again, he was an absolute beast.
Well, not to be outdone, Cassandra's got just a wonderful silhouette down of, actually she's got silhouettes of both players down. Cassandra's painting. I know she's painting in acrylics, and
there you go.
Just getting flat silhouette shape down, which is very much the way that I draw. Chris is much more of a line guy, but it gets to a point where he lassos things with the shape with line, and he's really going after beautiful shapes.
Yeah, I try to quickly get the shape, is what I try to do as fast as I can with a pencil.
And that's exactly what Cassandra's doing with putting down that flat silhouette. Cassandra, I haven't really, I feel like I have to talk about your materials a little bit, but I want to say a couple of things. Cassandra and I teach a painting class together, our gallery program, or fine arts program, whatever. I think that's our new name for it. And we've, beyond having just a great deal of fun,
Loving it.
I'm just having an absolutely great time teaching with Cassandra. She knows so much and is such a good teacher, which is really fun for me because Cassandra was a student, and she was also a student of Chris's at the Illustration Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what goes around comes around, right? So
It's so surreal to me. And when John does his demos in the class, I'm still taking notes, and I'm one of the teachers. It's still so much to learn. Wonderful.
This is the absolute perfect day for me to do this. I just finished, I had to make a presentation to a bank today for a group of studies.
Oh, the studies, how did it go?
Great. I gave them 5 small pieces to choose from, and they selected 3 already, and we're going to do a few more even. So it was a really good day for me.
Wonderful.
But I'm a little tired, and so this is I've really been working hard. So this is great to be able to sit back and watch Chris and Cassandra work. Cassandra, acrylic paint on corrugated board.
Right, that I treated with GAC 100, just like a clear acrylic polymer.
You even treat all these with GAC?
Well, yeah, because then the board won't soak up all my paint. I seriously need
Okay.
to be sponsored by them.
You do. I delivered all my studies today. Cassandra, every one of them was sealed, all 6 sides.
So proud of you.
I'm
So proud.
and
See,
then
what is it with GEC?
GAC. It's a
Golden GAC 100.
polymer sealer.
So how is that relate different than say gesso?
Because this, like, it creates almost like a plastic seal around it. So gesso can, but the GAC 100 is specifically created to make sure that nothing in the board will seep into your paint. So,
okay.
yeah. So like if you're using masonite and you're not quite sure what it's made with, it really protects your piece from whatever's in the masonite to not seep in later.
Plus, it totally seals it from any kind of moisture.
Right.
You know, I was just thinking about that when I first started doing it. I was thinking about the moisture issue when we were talking about that, when you were describing it in class. I never thought about the masonite has got all kinds of things that may not be appropriate for archival, integrity of the paintings. So you're protecting it from that also too.
Yeah.
And so is there a particular maker of it?
Yeah, Golden makes it, Golden GAC 100. It's
Okay.
I just keep buying new tubs of it, and I just will coat everything front, sides, and back, and so it completely seals everything in. And then I'll put gesso on top because I like the texture of gesso more than I do
Right.
the GAC.
That's the thing is I just love the texture of gesso. So you can
Yeah.
use the GAC first, and then okay, I'm gonna try that because the state birds are done on masonite.
I love your state birds so much.
Did you seal all on the sides?
Did I seal all the sides?
Yeah.
No.
Because archivalists are having trouble now with masonite because it's starting to peel and split. And once that happens, it's really hard for them to be able to save the piece and backtrack and protect it. So by sealing your edges properly, it prevents the peeling.
Okay. Well, I've learned something today. It's worth the price of admission right there.
That's right. It's great. You know, it's awesome. It's like Cassandra was a student 20 years ago.
Yep.
And she's teaching me stuff now.
And where did you learn? Well, see, the thing is, again, and I say this with this little tongue in cheek. Again, I went to college, John. We mentioned what, 1976. I go to the workshop. So I go to college. It's 1976, and at that time, you're basically being taught by a bunch of damn hippies. And I use that term. I kid around about that. But the point is, back in those days, yeah, they wouldn't tell you anything about process, anything.
No, actually, what you learn from is a bunch of abstract expressions.
Right. Yeah. And so
that's true. Yeah.
And I still remember I had a teacher who said to me one time, and he had that wonderful stone sound to him. It's not important how you say it; it's what you say that's important. And I'm like going, I'm 19 years old. I can't even buy my own booze. Girls still scare me. So what the hell do I have to say? Maybe I need to learn something. And then maybe when I grow up, I learn a few things. Maybe I will have something meaningful to say. But in the meantime, I'd like to learn how to do this.
Well, it's, like your program, I'm going to say this also, promote Chris a little bit, his his educational program is the Hartford Art School's MFA program. And it's, if you're interested in getting an MFA, there's only one place to go, and that's Chris's. You're going to learn a lot about, you're going to learn about pedagogy, but you're also going to learn its real focus is picture making. And we've shared a lot of the same students. Now we're sharing the same instructors.
Absolutely.
Dale Stefanos is going to his to get an MFA.
Oh, that's awesome.
And who is one of the best working illustrators. Chris, how are you going to deal with Dale? Just turn the class over to him.
I could say something, but this is, it would get me in trouble. Not with Dale, it would get me in trouble with Timmy the censors.
Yeah.
There's a
I just perked up a little bit, like
his fingers on the pause.
yeah, I was like, what
I
are you
know,
doing?
but I'll tell you the line after we sign off, Timmy, and then you'll find out what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's one of the great George Burns lines of all time.
Well, we'll save it for afterwards. I want to get in a little bit. I want to press Chris a little bit. Chris is drawing on the same paper I draw on all the time, but he's using a Prismacolor pencil instead of pastels that I use. He's drawing on a Strathmore drawing paper. It's a mid-tone gray. It also comes in tan.
Yeah, I much prefer the gray.
Yeah, I do too. That's why all my drawings are tan up there.
I don't know. I've tried the tans, but
I like them both.
no. I really do love this stuff, and it's so much fun to work on these things.
So did you bring this is a new sketchbook?
Yeah, this is a new one. Believe it or not, all my sketchbooks right now are at a gallery in Cincinnati where they're talking about having a show.
It.
So Cassandra, I got a kick out of this. The last time, I guess it was the last Academy, Chris brought a group of sketchbooks with him. And,
Right.
And so there's 24 or 48 pages to that, 48 probably.
Yeah.
And so George Pratt and I are sitting there thumbing through these sketchbooks, and every page it's like watching fireworks, you just, oh my God, I can't, we're just, and then some of them are very funny, we're laughing. And George just kind of looks at me, he goes, there's 48, I'm holding 48 Chris Paynes. All like one sketchbook. He goes like, doesn't he worry about like losing the sketchbook? I mean, 48 pieces together. They're just stunning, absolutely stunning.
Well, the thing is, for those of you guys who teach, and this, I mean, you try to get your students to understand the value of a sketchbook and the meaning of it and why it's important. And I kind of figure if you're going to teach, you better, show students that you mean it. And so that's kind of part of it. That's part of the reasoning, not just because and the other reason is I love to draw. I mean, that's the whole reason I became an illustrator is I like to draw. That's what I like to do.
And so Chris has had the experience of learning from some of the same people I learned from. A couple of weeks ago, I did a talk about influences. I started with doing my father, and then I did a Bernie Fuchs, where I just looked at a bunch of Bernie's work and talked about it. And I mean, he was an influence. He influenced my father a lot.
Oh, yeah.
My father kind of followed Bernie from Detroit to Connecticut about 4 years after Bernie. And Bernie was the man. He was the most successful working illustrator when my dad showed up in New York. And Chris was fortunate, like I was, to know him and learn from him. And I followed, did Nikolai Fetchin after Bernie. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do Robert Heindel.
Oh, wow.
And I'm doing Robert Heindel with his son, Troy, he curates his father's legacy. And I just want Chris to talk about that group of artists, what they meant to him, what it was like to learn from them. There was something in the water. I don't know what it was.
Well, the funny and what's fascinating, I got my first job in Akron, Ohio, which is where Bob Heindel worked. And while I was at that job, now this was after the workshop, that's where I found out that Bob was probably the most successful and famous artist that came out of the famous artist art program, the mail order program that Albert Dorn started, had guys like Rockwell involved with it. And so this guy that I worked with, he had photostats of some of the artwork that Bob Heindel did for those classes. And so sometime later, I was with Stephanie Plunkett at the Rockwell Museum, and she just recently did a book about drawing the famous artist school away.
Really?
Yeah, it's a really nice book. And so I told her, I said, I got these pictures that were Heindel's artwork that he did, they're photos, they're just photostats. And I said, if you want them to have for your library, she said, we'd love to have them. So now they've got the collection.
I just had a correspondence with Stephanie last week.
Yeah.
I introduced her to Troy.
Oh, cool.
Son. And Troy asked me if I knew anybody there, and I said that I'd spent afternoon with Stephanie Plunkett.
Yeah.
And introduced them and saw the emails back and forth, and a very positive thing. And she said that the Rockwell had Rose had donated a really beautiful, that was Bob's wife, a really beautiful piece to the museum. And her and Troy were gonna.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
So special.
so I want you to keep talking about the experience.
So yeah, I went,
these guys.
what happened was I found out about the program from Kober, who had come to the Art Directors Club of Dayton.
That's Alan Kober.
Yeah,
phenomenal illustrator. Look him up.
And and the thing is, so I saw Alan give this presentation, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, because I'm about ready to graduate from college, and I got my college loans and all that other crap to deal with. And I talked to my parents. I said, I got to go to this thing. And so I sold everything I had of any value. I sold it, and I borrowed some money from my dad. I mean, my parents already had 2 other kids in college at the time, so they couldn't afford it. So I ended up saving money and made enough money to go to it. And it was a very, very humbling thing, because although I thought I was pretty decent with the work I did in school, it wasn't until you go there and you meet these other artists and you start to learn more about illustration. And I came from a program that, all my art history was basically fine arts history. But the only art I knew about illustration was from Illustrators Annual number 16, and that was it. So when these guys start talking about Maxfield Parrish, I'm going, who's he? And when they mention this, I'm going, who's he? Who's Haddon Sundblom? Who's this? And so by the time I'm done and I do the program, I thought I totally flopped. I mean, I still remember driving away from Terrytown crying because I thought I failed. But somehow I was able to get this job in Akron, Ohio. And I somewhat content I got the job, because I think I was the only one who applied, because it was in Ohio. I think a lot of people thought, I don't want to go to Ohio.
Did Bob talk to you about that?
Yeah, it was Bob, because it was the agency that he started. And he just said, look, you got to learn sometime. And, this would be a great experience for you. So I went ahead and did it. And I'm glad I did, because I mean, I had my head handed to me enough times by art directors and by people that were there, but I learned a lot from them. about the business of illustration, of dealing with art directors, dealing with deadlines, dealing with reference, and all those things that I never was taught when I was in college. Because again, you're when you go to a fine arts program and you say, oh, you need to get photo reference, and your teacher says drawing from photographs, that's cheating. And I'm like, what? I didn't know that was cheating. Oh yeah, that's cheating. So,
you better tell all the illustrators that they're all cheating.
Yeah.
well,
And all the painters too.
Well, yeah, see, and that's the thing. So it wasn't until later on, I start finding out more. And so now when I'm in my program, I've done it for you guys, where I do a whole slideshow on, just the history of photo reference and illustration and art. I mean, it's for people to make that claim, it's so foolish. You're just lying to these kids when you say that stuff, because everybody did it. I mean, Eakins did it. Jerome did it.
Bonnard did it.
Yeah. On the topic of cheating, the first pose is over, so we got to move on to.
Okay,
hey, Cassandra, don't move yet. Don't change pieces. Chris, lean over and look at what Cassandra did.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
what great gesture. Isn't that great,
Cassandra?
All right, everybody.
Such a cool reference. Thank you for finding it.
Oh man, I love these old baseball photos.
Okay, so I just want to get this in. So please post your work to Instagram, #DrawingHive in the captions, as well as @VisualArtsPassage. We're going to check it out at the end of the night, so please post it now. Don't wait till the end.
Well, I'll have to wait to the end because I don't know how to do that. It takes me.
But everybody gets to see your work during the show.
They're all looking at your work now.
They're all looking at it, so it's okay. We know.
So
Hank Aaron.
So now we're going to draw Hank Aaron, and one of the things I love about baseball is, the way Hank Aaron batted. This is a Hank Aaron. You know who it is. You don't see his face. You may not even recognize the number, but that's him. But that's because that was his batting. It was so unique, and so that's what I love about these things is you can make a statement. I should probably put that head higher up, so that means the butt's going to have to move. But I also love, all this stuff's got to go this way. It's all got to go this way. Love the hands. Give them hands, big hands.
How long did it take, Chris, for you to realize that, everything is actually available to use, whether, that photo reference was okay?
I think it was, again, at that job in Akron where you started realizing, and then you start seeing the artwork. I remember, again, I went to that workshop. So, Fuchs and English and all those guys were just stars. And I was totally enamored by them. And my buddy who I worked with, this art director, he was an older fellow than me. He said, if you love those guys, what you need to do is stop looking at them and start looking at the people they admired. And that's when he said, oh, this is Austin Briggs. And I had never seen Austin Briggs's work. And this was back in the day when people had, folders in their cabinets, they called them, morgue files back then. And you had all these photos and tear sheets done by these other artists. And so you had Kobe Whitmore, you had Joe Bowler, he had, like I said, Austin Briggs, and you start looking at these guys, and then he would have some of the early stuff, the early Bernie Fuchs, before he was using the oils, when he was doing the gesso paintings, and he was doing artwork for VO Liquor and doing those things, and some early, he was the one who had the 1966 Marlin brochure that Mark English did all the artwork. Most of the time back in those days, they would have an artist who would do the cars, and they would have somebody else do the people. So Bernie would do the people, somebody would do the cars. Well, in this particular book, Mark did the people and the cars. And I remember talking to him about it later, years later, after getting to know him more. That he was very, very proud of that fact that I also did the cars. I did those. So he was very, very proud of that because it was very unique at that time. Artists didn't do that. Pontiac had two artists for years did their Pontiac stuff, AFVK. And it was like Kaufman and Fitzpatrick or something like that, these two guys. And one would do one thing and the other person would do it. But no, it was very, very humbling at times. I remember, the critiques we would get. And we did an assignment, I remember, and I had kind of got my head handed to me on that one. That was kind of fun. And then there was another one, we did a critique, and you had 6 artists. You had Bob Peak, Fred Ottness, Bob Heindel, Bernie Fuchs, Mark English, and Alan Kober. So they're looking at my work, and I don't want to go into detail, but the point is they're looking at it at one point. I think it may have been Mark or Bernie, one of the two, said, this is a really nice idea. I like the way this works, but you really need to finish the drawing. I mean, it's too incomplete. You need to show more of the detail in the face, because I just had it sort of semi-silhouetted. To which I think it may have been Pete goes, no, I like the way it works. I think it works fine just like that. To which then Fuchs says, no, I agree with Mark. He needs to finish the head. To which Kober says, no, I agree with, you need, leave it alone. It works fine the way it is. And finally, by the time it was done, you had 3 on one side saying it had to be done right, had to be reworked, all this. The others said, oh, no, it looks fine the way it is. And once they got,
oh my gosh.
Once they got done with it, they said, oh, go ahead, do whatever you want to do. I'm like, oh man.
I'd be frozen in terror.
Yeah. And the deal was it was an assignment for Psychology Today.
Assignment.
And it was a real assignment. And the art director said, whoever's artwork I choose will have their art printed in the magazine, and you'll get paid like $1,000, which back in the 1976, that was a ton of money. So I'm sitting there going, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I had worked so hard on this thing, and I was so fried. I just said, you know what, I'm going to go to bed, because I have been up like 3 nights in a row each time, because I do something and they would say, oh, change this. And so I'd stay up all night and I change it. And then I see him the next day and say, oh, you need to do this. And so, okay, so I'd stay up all night and I change that. So I went through like 3 all-nighters in a row, just about, doing all this. And so I went to bed, and next day, Neil Shakery, the art director, comes in. They do the critique, and he comes to mind. He goes, this is the best idea. I would have used it in a heartbeat, but I just wish you had finished the bases.
Oh my gosh.
And I just remember and it was so nice, because right after that, Alan Kober very nicely came up to me, squeezed my shoulder, and just leaned down and said, Chris, don't worry. You got the most important thing right. You got the idea right. So that was meaningful.
Wow.
But man, yeah, that was some time. And, the artists they brought in for us to see, not just themselves. We saw Maurice Zendak give a presentation.
Oh my gosh.
He was great. We saw.
Was he a curmudgeon, or was
yes?
All the documentaries always has him kind of very curmudgeon-y. I'm fascinated by him.
Yeah,
and Terry Brown also said he was kind of curmudgeon-y.
Oh yeah.
Can you guys give a quick layman's person, like somebody who has no idea who this is?
Where the Wild Things Are was written and illustrated by Maurice Zendak.
Yeah.
Yeah, Where the Wild Things Are, the legend is.
Yeah.
But and he had a great line. He said what he always wanted to do with his books was he wanted to scare the crap out of a kid just for a second. Just for a second. But then bring him back. And somebody said, well, do you like kids? And he said, no, he doesn't like kids. So he was just very funny in that way, but he was great. We saw Al Parker, the great Al Parker. Dick Gangle, who was the art director for Sports Illustrated, came in, and he brought all these paintings in that were just incredible, originals by other artists like Doug Johnson and other folks like that. I remember he
could be a tough guy too.
well, that was the story that they said about him, was how, but he defended his artists. That was the deal, the way he would defend his artists.
Chris, I played tennis with Dick Gangle several times.
Oh, wow.
He used to play in my dad's court,
Yeah.
and they would trade. He would give my father tickets to the U.S. Open,
Wow.
the Sports Illustrated box at the U.S. Open. So
Wow.
I got to be the beneficiary of that, and I'm fortunate to know him a little bit when I was a kid. He was amazing, and that's I mean, he was the preeminent art director for years. In fact, the Society of Illustrators, the Gangle Award, is obviously from his. It goes to the best art direction of the year.
And part of the reason why they gave it to him, that they named the award for him, was because he was so passionate on how he defended his artists.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have you'd have the editor come in and he might make some changes to something, and Gangle would come in and say, "How dare you talk to my artist? That's not your job. That's mine. You keep your hands away from my artists." And he would, and from what I understand, he said it in a very, very colorful way.
He was a very intimidating guy. He looked like Jack Palance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but
Big tall guy. He was gangly. He was
oh yeah,
real wiry, but 6
Did
feet.
he have a resting grumpy face?
Pardon me?
Did he have like a resting grumpy face, like his
No,
natural state?
no. He was just a real serious guy. My father, who became very good friends with him, would tell stories about working for him when he would hire him, and he would send my father, Bernie worked for him forever. But my dad got great assignments from him where he would send him to like Mexico to cover bullfights or the rodeos, and they would send him around to cover these like a journalist. And
they don't do that now. They don't do that now.
Yeah. And so my father would say, he got the first time he worked for him, he got this wonderful assignment, and then he brought like 6 or 7 pieces in to Dick to show him, and Dick put him up on a rail like in his office and looked at all of them and just looked at my father and said, "Thank you very much." And that was the end of the meeting. So this is a guy that he saw, once, every week on the tennis court playing tennis with him. He lived in the town over than we did in Connecticut. And he said it was a completely different guy in his office. He said it really was intimidating.
Oh yeah.
That's fascinating.
But he was a great art director. He determined the look and feel of Sports Illustrated for 25 years.
But again, the thing that's amazing, like I say, and that was so important, was he defended his artists.
Yeah.
Editors, like not that long ago, I did a piece for Sports Illustrated. They had a big coffee table book on college football. And they asked me to do this picture of what they considered to be the greatest college football players in college history. So, they picked all these players, only one player per school, whatever their rules were, had all this stuff. So I did this painting and I put a ton of work into it, all these, because it was offensive, defensive. It turns out there were like 28 people in the picture on the sideline with the fans, all this stuff. And I just thought, I think of football, particularly those old films, it's snowing, and the breath of the player. And so I had it snowing, and they said, "Okay, it looks good." Well, the book comes out, they edited out all the snow.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, that wouldn't have happened with Dick Gangle.
No.
I'm going, man, that would not have happened. Yeah, it turns out the editor didn't like the snow, so he took it out. So say it had some guy on a computer scan it in and go in there and remove all the snow.
Ouch.
Yikes.
So now all you see of these guys with their breath is going, yeah, they're all smoking.
Angry like a bull.
Summertime.
Oh man. Again, that's the difference. I mean, those guys, I mean, Gangle sent Al Parker to the Monte Carlo Grand Prix in Monte Carlo.
Wow.
I mean, that's the kind of assignments those guys would get back in the day.
Well, Bernie went everywhere with Sports
Oh, he would
Illustrated.
go to
Every
Wimbledon.
golf tournament.
He went to Wimbledon. He went
Yeah.
to the Masters, went to the US Open, went to the US Open tennis.
I got such a kick out of doing that talk about him that I'm, watching, out of Bernie's book, I put shots in there of Bernie photographing John F. Kennedy,
Oh yeah.
and then photographing Lyndon B. Johnson. And I'm looking at the year, and Bernie was 29 years old.
Yeah.
When he was photographed. He's in the Oval Office with Kennedy. And it's like illustration world's changed a little bit.
Well, one of my I don't know if you heard that story Murray would tell about Bernie.
Murray Tinkleman,
Yeah.
is who he's talking to.
Yeah, he's the guy who started the program that where I work with now. But he tells the story that Bernie is showing his slides. And at some point, this woman asks, so in this painting that you have, and she starts to go into this very floral description of, when you did this, were you thinking of, man's relationship with nature and life and all these other things that she's going on? And he said, Bernie, who was, I think, naturally very kind of shy guy,
Timid guy.
as she's going on, he said, Bernie just seemed to get smaller, just sort of shrink more and more. Finally, when she got done, he went up and he said, the answer was, it was in the shot.
He gave me that answer. He gave me that same answer. We were in the same gallery in Telluride, Colorado.
Yeah.
And again, one of the dumber moves I've ever made was I introduced the gallery owner to my father and Bernie. And I got moved to the back of the bus on that. No, it was a great experience. But I asked Bernie about this painting he had done, and he used to go to Italy every summer.
Right.
His daughter lived in Italy.
Right.
And painting he had done of Tuscany, and there was a car in this particular position. And I said, Bernie, did you put that car in, or did you move it? And he goes, no. He goes, it was in the shot. It was exactly where it was. And he said, but there was something about the composition that the car was really important to me when I took the shot. And I mean, Bernie was a cinematographer. I mean, the guy was an amazing photographer.
Well, that's the thing. He had the eye.
Yeah.
He had the eye. That's the key.
I'll say this for anybody though, because John, you mentioned, illustrations changed. This is so funny to me because I thought that. And then literally this week I was on Instagram and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Devin Rodriguez. He's like one. Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. He was just, I saw a video of him meeting like a private one-on-one meeting with Biden.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
That's so cool.
So I guess it's different, but I don't know it didn't look like it was an assignment. It was just Biden being like, God, this looks like a photo.
Just what he didn't want to hear.
Yeah, I know, right? You're like, that's the only soundbite. And then I was trying to look it up, and that's like the pull quote every news station is using. My God, this looks like a photo.
Well, John knows, the movie Loving.
Yeah.
The movie Loving it's great because that's where Sterling Hayden plays the client, and the agency or the what is his agent is introducing him to the client, and he's like, Mr. Jones, this is the illustrator, this is the artist who's going to be doing your artwork. He goes, really? You're an illustrator, huh? My daughter likes to draw pictures too.
so
Perfect
true.
font.
Well, I'm gonna say something, and it doesn't really mean that much. Maybe more to me than anybody else, but one of the reasons I do all these talks and like to share, people that I've acquaintances of mine that are artists, people that have are in my orbit, because of most of it because me starting out with my father, my father's relationships, and Chris being one of them. I met Chris because of my father. There's nobody that you've mentioned their name that I have not met.
Yeah.
Chris, you mentioned Joe Bowler, you mentioned Kobe Whitmore, you mentioned Al Parker, you mentioned Austin Briggs. And I was very young when I met all of them, but it was such an unbelievable experience. Maybe because, maybe that's what made me want to be an artist, is just to be a part of it, because they were all really dynamic individuals. And, you talk about Robert Heindel, he's just like the coolest guy ever walked the planet. In my mind, it was like talking to James Coburn. James Coburn.
I said he was the George Hamilton of illustration.
Yeah.
The tannest dude.
Yeah.
The tannest dude.
Handsome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looked like a movie star. But
always had that cigarette in his teeth. In his teeth.
But the things that kind of came to me, I don't know, maybe that's why I'm so fascinated with educating other artists, is that I had such a great opportunity to be around all these phenomenal individuals.
Well, the other thing I'll also say this, what's great about this is, and I just recently gave a lecture with this show that I had in Middletown, talking about illustration. It wasn't illustration versus fine art. It was just illustration, fine art. And the thing is, almost every one of us, we've been through school, we all had the art history classes. And in those art history classes, they never talked about the illustrators.
Yeah, and you didn't learn about Norman Rockwell.
No, you really don't, unless you go to the Rockwell Museum. Rockwell's in some museums, but for example, the Cincinnati Art Museum has a Rockwell. I don't know that it's ever been on display. It's down in their closet, and and we mentioned Kobe Whitmore, we mentioned Mark English, we mentioned Austin Briggs, all these artists. Saul Tepper, Mead Schaefer. These people are amazing. Illustration has an incredible legacy to it. And unfortunately, because the way so many schools are, young artists don't get to know that. And they want to be illustrators, and the schools don't teach them the history of what they want to be. It's like wanting to be a guitar player and never hearing who Eric Clapton is. That doesn't make sense.
You probably get to.
I want to just chime in real quick because we're at the end of that second post, so we're getting ready for the long one. So please post your work to Instagram using #DrawingHive and add Visual Arts Passage in the caption. This third post is a longer one. It's 40+ minutes. So settle in. You could draw both of the two remaining images, or you could choose one. So sorry, go ahead, guys.
You're good. You're good.
No, totally good. Thank you, Timmy.
Chris, that looks amazing, by the way.
It is.
Thank you.
I love how you handled the crowd behind him, and you got his posture perfectly, that lean in.
Hank was something else. Here's a stat for you. Hank Aaron, until Barry Bonds broke the record, had the most home runs any player in baseball history. And if you took every one of those home runs away from him, he still finished his career with more than 3,000 hits.
Wow.
They always talk about
how many hits did Barry Bonds have?
I don't know how many hits he had. And I think he hit I think he got 3,000. But, they always talk about Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle. And I think they all deserve that thing. But not enough time gets given, I think, to Hank Aaron of what a great player Hank Aaron was. He was just a phenomenal player. The consistency, it's same thing with guys like Stan Musial. Some of these players, they just don't get the the cred that I think they deserve. Anyway,
That's beautiful, Craig.
thank you.
Really fun. Great.
All right, so now we're gonna have fun with Satch.
Yeah, that looked the most Chris Payne pose of all of them.
There's actually another pose of him sitting down, may have been in the same photo shoot where his leg is crossed a little bit, but I just love the gesture. I like the glove. The other one doesn't have the glove, and there's just such a personality that you see in this piece.
Foreshortening is great.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. Should I draw it, turn my board this way? I think I should.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
I have a photo of my nephew that looks exactly like this.
Aw.
Chris, I had a question about, you were talking about illustration and like how like the underrepresented aspect of it by institutions in general. What do you guys think it is about illustration that has made it like, is it just not talked to, is it just like less sexy? Like what?
It was considered commercial art.
And you just think that it's just the branding of that has led to it. Yeah.
And some of it is extremely commercial, but there was also just incredible artists that approached illustration as an art form. And some amazing artists that have worked on, well, I mean, there's a lot of fine artists or painters that did illustration work too.
Oh, well, they started off their
Yeah.
careers. Edward Hopper was an illustrator.
Yeah.
Winslow Homer
Homer
was an
was an
illustrator.
Toulouse-Lautrec did
Lautrec was an illustrator. De Kooning did illustration. Andy Warhol was an illustrator. I mean, there's a lot of it, but it's just, I think it's, people have the sense that because illustrators are working with clients, that there's somehow some kind of interference that doesn't let them be the purity of the artist that they should be. And
Which is funny because so many
illustrators.
oh yeah,
Peter Max. Go ahead. Go ahead,
I
Tim.
was gonna say, Chris, the irony of that is, wouldn't you say that so many like the classics artists that are like the pedestal artists, they were doing something for the church?
well, yeah, I mean, that's the deal. I mean,
Absolutely.
it was a narrative piece of art. They had a client. People did artwork for who had the money. And back then it was kings and the
Mhm.
and the
And
royal.
church.
Then you ended up having well-to-do, powerful families like the Medicis and people like that. And then you had other folks come along, and so yeah, it was, and even the artists today who are doing things. You don't think that the gallery says, hey, you know, those paintings that have this, they're selling good. Keep doing more of that. I mean, there, you know, it's, I won't mention the artist. I will not mention, don't you mention his name. But there was an artist who was, we know, who was talking about how he had to prep a show and he had to hurry up and crank out another like 16 paintings in the next 4 days to be able to have his show ready. And one of our colleagues said, well, thank God it's not commercial art. You know, and
I remember the conversation.
yeah. And so there is a certain thing. I mean, I didn't see the show. I guess what, 60 Minutes just had a thing on Jeffrey Koons.
I didn't see it.
You know, thing on Jeffrey Koons. I didn't see it either. Somebody was telling me about it. And they were saying, you know, he does these things. And it's just like, you know, I don't understand. And I'm going, well, you know, it's what he does, you know, but he doesn't actually make those things. He drew them up and has artists, you know, in Italy create them for him. You got to read, what is it? Thomas Wolfe's
The Painted
The
Word.
Painted Word. I
Great
mean,
book.
it is. It's a short read, but it's
I know it's an older recommendation to me, but it is an awesome book for artists. Called The Painted Word, written by Thomas Wolfe.
Cool.
Tom Wolfe.
Tom Wolfe.
I mean, it will have, there are parts of it will have you laughing.
Malcolm Morley and who was the
Right.
gallery that was going to give him the Rolls Royce.
I mean, there are,
The battle between Mary Boone and I don't know who the other gallery was, but one of them said, okay, if you sign with us, I will give you a Rolls Royce.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
This is my nephew.
Oh my gosh, that's
Chris,
fun.
take a look.
oh, wow,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
perfect.
You weren't kidding. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's the same composition basically.
Yeah.
That's it.
I didn't know I was stealing it. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, his feet are a little bit bigger.
So I got a couple of questions for Chris. It's like, what's your favorite illustration project you've ever done?
Hey, I know what you call it. I guess my favorite commission, two things. One, doing a time cover of the first African-American elected president of the United States. That had and do it in a way that you don't screw it up. That was challenging and exciting. I got
For
asked.
sure.
I got asked. It was a private commission through the Brandywine.
This is my favorite.
Oh yeah,
it's my favorite thing that illustration job ever, I think.
I got asked to do a portrait of Andrew Wyeth to give to him as a gift by his wife.
I love that piece.
So,
Well, it's a great illustration. It was a great portrait, but it was just, such an honor to be able to do a portrait. Can you imagine the pressure of doing a portrait of Andrew Wyeth?
oh yeah, you're going, man, what if this guy doesn't like it? So I remember later on asking, the gallery person who called me, because I never spoke with him. Did he like it? And she said, well, supposedly his first words were, are my ears really that big?
That's what my dad said about his portrait he did of him.
So yeah. And he sent me a very nice letter. We got a very nice letter back from him. It was very kind. And so, yeah, I think he liked it. So I feel
Chris, how much time did you have to do the Obama piece?
oh, it's a typical time thing. They, here's this guy, he's elected first African-American elected president of the United States. And it was originally commissioned for the Man of the Year, of which they ended up using the Shepherd Ferry piece.
Right.
Of which, by the way, I got permission for my reference. and I got permission from the photographer, and I had Time magazine compensate the photographer.
Good.
So take that, you guys. But anyway, they chose his because he did the famous poster.
Yeah, the hope.
Mhm.
So that's why they used that piece.
Right.
And I remember when I called my wife to tell her that they chose the Shepherd Ferry piece, she
So you have some choice words?
she had some choice words. I'll just put it that way. She had choice words.
Can't imagine.
One of them was, you call Time magazine up, you tell them never call you up again. You'll never work with them again. You tell them you are done with them. I'm like, oh, hang in there, we'll figure. And then about a week, 10 days later, they called me up and they said they liked it so much they're going to use it for the inaugural. And so that's how that came about.
Wow.
So it was.
You withdrew were you trying to figure out how to delete a voicemail off the Time?
No, as a matter of fact, so you'll like this. So about, I don't know, because we used to always go to New York in February for Society of Illustrators. So I go to meet Arthur Hochstein, the art director at the time. I go to meet him for lunch, and so we're sitting down. I said, Arthur, let me tell you a story. And I told it to him word for word. I told him, and he goes, well, I'm surprised Paula hasn't said that more often.
I have your favorite. My favorite of your Obamas is with his finger, with his hands.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite one. I love that paint piece. I'm fortunate to have it.
Oh, wow.
And you also have, don't you have one of my Bruce Springsteens?
I have Bruce Springsteen. It was printed in Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah, Rolling Stone.
I have a portrait you did of my father sitting on a bench in Europe.
Yeah, that's right. That was a fun. I love that photo. I felt like I had to do something with it.
I think I have 7 in total. And I love them all.
Well,
I have one. I have the one you did of the plein air painter.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yes, that's incredible. Thank you, by the way. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, my husband got it for me as a gift, and it's
Blew me away.
I love it. I love it so much.
Here, Cassandra, Chris, that little painting up there on the top, you can't see it, this one's covered. This is Cassandra's.
Oh, you got the Boris Karloff.
No,
Oh,
no,
well, what's
no,
that? What's this?
This is.
Oh.
This is for her.
Oh, wow.
I've just never sent it to her. We traded.
Come on.
Oh, are you showing my amazing painting
I
that
was
you
gonna
owe
say,
me? I can't wait for it to
Yeah,
arrive.
I show it to everybody I talk to. I'll get it to you next week, I promise.
Well, you know, I got one of your landscapes.
I know which piece you have.
It was in that show that you had at that little restaurant
Yeah.
over there at the square, whatever that place was called.
I'm trying to remember that. I was just starting
Yeah.
to sell paintings at the time,
I know, it was cool.
going from leaving the illustration world to the painting world.
Leaving the illustration world behind.
We've got a question from the audience I've been sitting on for a minute.
Yeah.
From Wellington, the student.
Hmm.
There, I mean, the name, the artist name is Wellington. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Huge baseball fan. I'm of the new millennium. What are your, so this is off to a rocky start. What are your thoughts on the status of baseball today, and does it influence your art?
No.
Okay.
I mean, no, look, baseball right now, look, I do think they're trying to fix it. But the problem is some of the things that they're trying to do, what they consider to be to fix the game.
Assuming none of us know what they're doing, how would you, like, in a nutshell, say it? Just like basic rule changes, distance of plates. Is that pretty much what you're?
Yeah, I don't think that's that big of a deal. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, the time clock, that's fine. Because I mean, there was too much, you know, scratching and, you know, all that kind of crap going on.
So you don't care too much about the
Yeah.
minor rule changes, yeah.
But the big deal is, like, right now, you know, a pitcher can't throw more than 100 pitches. I mean, what? You know, there's a famous game with Juan Marichal versus Warren Spahn, and they both threw over 200 pitches in the game. And what was it? The manager was telling Juan Marichal, "You pitched enough. We can get a relief pitcher. Well, let's get a relief pitcher." And Marichal's going, "Hell no, you're not taking me out of the game. That guy is still in the game, and he's 43 years old. You're not taking me out of this game." And so, yeah, I mean, there was that type of thing. I mean, listen to some of the stats about Nolan Ryan and the number of innings he pitched. He pitched the game, I think, went 14 innings. And, you know, 3 days later, he pitched again. You know, it's just.
I do feel like all the sports, of all sports, baseball gains so much from, like, myth and, like, legend, that people, like, there's more like tall tales from baseball than I think any other sport.
I was just thinking the word tall tale.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, what's interesting about the game is all the technology keeps improving. Gloves are bigger, players are stronger, they're faster, all of that stuff. All of that's absolutely true. Still, though, what? The pitcher's mound is 60 feet, 6 inches away from home plate. The 90 feet for, you know, to first base. A guy hits a ground ball to the shortstop, he bobbles it just a little.
Yeah.
And it's still a bang bang play. It doesn't matter whether that was 1904 with the technology that the players were playing with in 1904. It's still there. You know, back in those days, those guys were, you know, playing against pitchers who were throwing spitballs, and they were throwing shine balls, and they were doing all kinds of things, and yet still. So basketball, you look at a film footage of a basketball game from 1940, it's a joke to watch these guys because the skill sets of the players, all those things have changed so dramatically.
I've heard so many. I would say that I understand. I don't understand, but I'm a big fan of the NBA and like game theory on the NBA, and it is baseball is the one sport that I don't roll my eyes at when people talk about athletes from like 50 years ago. Whereas like the NBA, people will talk up players, the star players from, and it's no question they're amazing, but it's just the game has changed, so, like you're saying, so dramatically. But yeah, I don't know.
It's happening with all sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the technology that guys that play tennis now
Yeah,
play
so I
with.
was going to say the tennis game is totally different.
Well,
I mean-
one of the things that cracked me up was I was at lunch with some guys and somebody mentioned we were talking kind of this basic conversation, and they're like, baseball's the one sport that hasn't figured out the belt yet. They're still using a belt. All their uniforms have little belts on them.
Well, and the other
I thought that was so fun, such a funny observation.
well, the funny thing too, of course, about baseball is baseball is also the only game in which, you know, the manager and the coaches, you know, are wearing the uniforms. You're not seeing.
That's a really good point.
You're not
Oh
seeing.
man, yeah,
You're not seeing. You know, you're not seeing Red Auerbach in gym shorts. You know? You're not seeing, you know, the football coach out there with the helmet on and the shoulder pads.
I have a theory because there's got to be a reason why that didn't catch fire there. Why do you think?
Well, I don't know exactly, but because there was a time when, you know, Connie Mack was, you know, he wore a suit out there. He wore a suit.
Okay.
I mean,
my guess is that it's a sport that, and you could shoot holes in, I'm thinking off the top of my head, is that all the other sports happen during favorable seasons or are in an environment that you can wear a suit, like indoors.
right. Well, you also had back in the day, even you know, in the 40s and what have you, you had player managers.
That was going to be my hypothesis.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had a lot of player managers.
It's so I've never thought about that, Chris, that they're the only ones they dress up in their little costumes.
Exactly.
They're not athletes, but they dress up in the
Yeah.
But some of them did. Some of them did. I mean, some of them did.
But then it's like, oh, are you like pretending like you're gonna play today?
The amazing thing is there was a period of time when Ted Williams was a manager and he was known as the greatest hitter.
Yeah.
Because he was known as the greatest hitter, you know, here he is, he's managing at that time the Washington Senators, who at that time they were a pretty bad team. And their owner offered him, and this is like 1967, maybe something like that, offered him like $100,000 if he would bat one time in a game. And I mean, back in those days, there were players who they weren't making $100,000 for the season.
Yes.
I mean, they're making $20,000, but he's offering Ted Williams.
They were like roofing the rest of the year, or like, yeah, they worked for like, yeah, they were like
Right.
electricians.
But here's the deal, though. He said $100,000 if you bat. He goes, I have one restriction, one thing. You got to give me 24 hours notice.
Okay.
So he could tell the press. So the press would say, tomorrow, Ted Williams will bat, sell out crowd. So they, you know, already marketing, you know, that's, you know.
So are the coaches wearing are they all wearing the uniform because they're all every coach is just a retired player, just secretly hoping that they're like, everybody's injured. We just need somebody to do third base. Who could step up? They're like, well, I'm already wearing the outfit.
No, they can't do that, but it is.
I understand. I'm just joking. Yeah.
But it is funny that they do that.
It seems because in any other sport, it would be you would be made fun of as a coach so much. Like it would be ruthless.
Yeah, it's like even in soccer, you don't see the coaches out there in their soccer shorts.
Well, you do in tennis though, when they're if they're like competing at the Olympics or if they're playing Davis Cup, a lot of times the coaches are usually coaches players, and they'll have tennis attire on.
Okay.
Not as far as coaches go, though.
Right.
Not really a like star coach position, right? I mean, I'm sure it's a big deal, but
Well, it's very most tennis coaches are ex-players,
Yeah, just like, yeah.
even recent ex-players, and they still play at a really high. A lot of them still play at a really high level.
yeah. I just want to confirm with our audience, everybody that doesn't like sports is gone, right?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, when
No,
this,
I mean, I'm just confirming the damage is done. Let's enjoy it.
Well, no, this is transcend sports.
Yeah, it definitely is.
We'll go back. We'll talk a little bit more about artwork too.
Yeah, no, we can. I mean,
the thing is, the amazing thing is, and I realize not everybody has to like sports, but the amazing great art that has been done, created around sports. Thomas Eakins painted sports.
Yeah.
A.B. Frost painted sports. There's wonderful, great cartoons of Winsor McKay when he was doing work for the newspapers on sports. I mean, Bernie Fuchs's paintings on sports. They're gorgeous paintings. They're amazing paintings. And I mean, Harvey Dinnerstein painting sports. I mean, sports has been the subject matter of a lot of great artwork. Rockwell, of course, and his sports artwork. Leindecker did great paintings on sports.
Well,
So-
think of all the artists that did dance.
Yeah,
It's a very physical thing. I mean, it's like, as Heindel said, it's like, he thought that dancers had the perfect physiques. And
oh yeah.
and so he wanted to start, if he was going to do figurative work, he wanted to start working from people that had the most perfect physique.
Well, when I was in high school, I was always doing sports, and one of my art teachers says, "You really like doing this? Here's what you need." She brought out a Life magazine with a photo spread on Rudolf Nureyev,
The dancer.
the dancer, and she showed this, and so I did a whole series of drawings based on that, because one, it's the movement of the dancer, but also the anatomy.
Yeah.
And there was a great photos collection that Life magazine did in I think it might have been like 1970, somewhere in that ballpark, of these NFL players, not in uniform, just portraits of them. And there's one portrait of Bob Lilly shirtless, and he's got this look on it's an amazing, amazing photograph.
So Bob Lilly was a linebacker for lineman for Dallas Cowboys.
Right. And and not that long ago, of course, what was it? ESPN, I don't know if they still have a magazine. They would do these really cool kind of art photos of contemporary players like Serena Williams or somebody like that were just great images, because because of the sport that they're in and the physical condition that they're in, their chiseled bodies, and they're fantastic. And of course, their poses, you get the lighting right, you get some great images.
John, John, you'll know the name of the player, the Chiefs player. It's the famous halftime photo. He's in the locker room smoking a cigarette.
Oh, Lenny Dawson.
Lenny Dawson.
I've got that photo. I've drawn
The cigarette and
that.
the beer.
Yeah.
It's not a beer, it's a
I
fresco.
know.
But it's popularly, people look at it and they're like, it might as well have been a beer. It was,
I like
mean,
to think of it
as far as performance goes, if it's halftime at the Super Bowl you got to go back in, and somebody's like, you got to chug this Fresca or a beer. I think you're splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune to know Lenny Dawson.
No way, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just passed away.
He belonged to the same club that I belonged to, for my family belonged to for a long time, country club. And his locker was about 6 away from mine.
If I'm not mistaken, where did he go to college?
I don't know.
I think he went to Purdue. I think he's a Boilermaker.
He's a very nice guy.
Wow. Well, he seemed.
You don't think about it as I never thought about him as just being, like a Joe Montana, that it was just a different time, of athlete. They didn't have they were more
Well, they didn't get paid that much as much.
Right.
So therefore, most of these guys in the off season, they had jobs.
right. Lenny didn't. But he
Legend.
became an announcer, made a lot of money as an announcer.
Oh, after his career was over,
Yeah,
but maybe during the season, I mean, these guys, that's what they would have to do. They would go out and get jobs. They'd be, selling, things, working at hardware stores, different things of that nature. If they made enough money, maybe they try to buy a hardware store because, as they say, nails don't spoil. So they would do that. They were very practical. They grew up on farms. I mean, John's dad didn't know him well, but I had met him, Tris Speaker, who was one of the original Hall of Famers, who was from, the same town Mark grew up in. Farmers. These are farmers.
Yeah. He was one of the first guys elected to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yep. He wasn't in the first class, but he was in the first induction ceremonies. I think the original five, I think it was original five. That was Ruth, Matheson, Johnson, Cobb, and Wagner.
Wow.
I think that was the way it went. And then there was a whole group that followed after that, a couple of them. But yeah.
He was from his original town that he was from.
Yeah.
Was a town of like 80 people.
Yeah.
They just played baseball all day, every day as kids.
Yeah, they didn't need to have, the parents organize the games. They were able to go do it.
Yeah. Timmy, you were about to say something.
It wasn't that important. I was just thinking about it's interesting hearing about these older players, and Chris, so much of the stories around them and the stats, but just like, because I grew up not with baseball, I grew up with the NBA. It was like the 90s.
Well, that was the heyday. I mean, that was the
it doesn't get better than that. I mean,
I mean, Magic and Larry Bird. I mean, I loved watching those videos where they talk about, Magic and Bird's trash talking.
Have you seen the series Winning Time?
No, not yet.
Oh, Chris, you
You need to see it. It's really good.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the documentary Last Dance?
Yeah, that's amazing. So good.
That was amazing.
But I guess what I was thinking is like the thing that's removed from sports now, or seems to be removed from sports as a viewer experience, is that I feel like I caught the very tail end of it, is the like legend kind of tall tale aspect of it, which, because a lot of it was just like, if you miss the game, you miss the game. There wasn't like a Sports Center countdown. There wasn't like
Right.
happened this week. And it was like I remember seeing photos of the Jordan dunk from the free throw line, and like just having to surmise what had happened. Like you just saw photos of a man who appeared to be flying, right?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, it's amazing is you're going, I didn't see the, excuse me. I remember watching Dr. J do that 15 years before. Dr. J would take off from the foul line.
Yeah.
When he was in the ABA, oh God, Dr. J was
But like then
unbelievable.
yeah. But then I also think about like with the NBA, like trash talking was such a, we don't need to say any, let's just agree now we're not going to say anything of the trash talk, but trash talk in general was such a huge part of the NBA. I'm assuming it was a huge part of all of the sports we're talking about.
Oh
But,
gosh,
God,
yeah.
but it's like gone, largely gone now. Or like really hidden because of amazing audio.
Oh yeah, to some degree, but
You can't
yeah,
talk
there
trash
was.
like they used to on you you can't like on a court, especially on a court, you couldn't talk trash now, like without getting fined, I guess.
I
But,
imagine
but
there's some trash talking going on. You know, in baseball, that was a big deal.
I
You
bet
know,
it
they
still
did it.
exists.
I don't know.
I know it still exists on the football field.
Oh yeah, it exists, but I'm saying like it's like it went like I just remember like kids like we would be playing pickup and they would just like there would just be like legends of like things that players said to each other, you know, and like it was so exciting and like and it's myth. And I guess what I'm getting at is like it gets to a point where the story, the fish becomes so big with some of these athletes that they became like heroes, you know.
Oh
And I
yeah.
wonder
But
if
do you think it's because they're recording so much they can't pull the myth off because there's too much proof of
I
like
think the mystique, I think there's some mystique lost. Yes. You know, I've heard that about actors now. Like the most incredibly interesting actors and actresses are like they're like not doing interviews and like there's just so much mystique about them. But like
I think there's a certain amount of truth in what you're saying because, you know, but the amazing thing, of course, is nowadays you can see this stuff where you didn't. For example, one of the most famous World Series is the 1961 series.
Mhm.
And when that game was over, it was over. People didn't realize. And it wasn't until not that long ago they found this in Bing Crosby because he was a part owner of the Pirates and he was apparently in Spain and was so nervous couldn't watch the game, so he had him videotape the game for him. And after he died, it was in his archives. They actually found and resurrected Game 7 of the World Series. So that game, all you had were the photos and the reporters' responses to the game, and now you can watch the game on YouTube. But of course, the thing that's amazing too about them, those old games was that was before instant replay too. So like there's this incredible play that takes place and it takes place and it's over. You don't get to go back and watch. I mean, you can nowadays, but when my dad was watching baseball games in the 50s and the 60s, and you're watching the Brooklyn Dodgers play the New York Yankees, and there's an amazing play, like the famous play was Jackie Robinson out at home plate that Yogi still says he was out. There was no instant replay. It happened. The play was called and it was over. And so to this day, it was always, even though after the season was over, Jackie Robinson and Yogi were good friends, but it was always the back and forth between them. He goes, "You were out." He goes, "No, I'm safe." "No, you were out." It's great.
that's funny.
That's terrific, Cassandra.
oh thanks. I feel like I'm
Look at it.
fighting the
Oh, yeah.
foreshortening.
It is. It's hard, because I get right now because the foreshortening, the way I've drawn it, he looks
It's
like
like goofy.
he looks normal up here, but then he's got these
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like a little kid the way that it's kind of splayed out. And it just looks like he's wearing clown shoes at the moment for me. But you caught it the way, I love how you've rendered the bottom of the shoes now.
That's it.
My brother played baseball pretty competitively in grade
Uh-huh.
school. Like he made all the select teams in grade school and stuff.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, sure. but
No.
but this is what was funny, Chris, is my dad, who never went to any of our games, he went to one game and my brother lost it and the whole team was devastated. It was like a big game. And I guess I was like a really little kid and my dad put me on his shoulders and he went up to the team. I don't know why my dad did this. I don't know what he was thinking. I was probably like 4 or 5. And he goes, Timmy, do you have anything you want to say to the team? The whole team looked at me and I just said, you bunch of losers.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a bunch of crying 10-year-olds.
Nothing,
Wow.
nothing like out of the nothing like out of the mouths of babes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bunch of losers.
Just what they wanted to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you were gonna say, tell them to suck it up or something.
He teed it up for me. It was like, yeah.
That's funny.
Play baseball into college or
Did I?
yeah, or high school?
No, I just played high school baseball, but I was a bit of a bench warmer because I didn't play, I played as a kid, but I had to go through these surgeries for my kidney. So I couldn't play baseball from like 5th grade to 8th grade. And, when you're like in 4th grade, everybody's playing a certain way, and then you end up in a baseball game in 8th or 9th grade. They discover this pitch called a curveball. And I had never seen a curveball before, man. And it took me a while. And so I played, but I wasn't a very good baseball player, but I love the game. I tried to be good. I tried.
You were a good field goal kicker.
Yeah, I played high school. Yeah, that was all I could. And so for football, I couldn't go out and play tackle because of my kidney. So the only thing I was allowed to do was be a kicker.
Oh, that's cool, Chris. I was a kicker in high school.
Yeah, but you probably kick soccer style, right?
No, football.
No, what I'm saying, did you kick straight on or soccer style?
I kicked badly. I kicked straight on.
Oh, you were a straight on kicker too. Way to go. Cool. So was I.
I was for like preseason, I was kicking, I was just goofing around, and it was like I was a machine. This was devastating. I was at a practice where I was hitting like killer field goals just pretty far consistently. I was like 9 for 10. And the coaches were like, this guy's a killer. We need to set him up with an opportunity. And then it was like, they just kept doing it, and they just kept building it up. And they were like, he might go up to the next level. Like varsity at Rock was a big deal. And they put me in a game, and I cracked under pressure so intensely, Chris, that I kicked it and it hit the center in the back of the head.
Yes, there we go.
It was so bad. It was so bad. It was like one of the most embarrassing moments of my life.
Well, you'll love it. You'll enjoy this. So I played and we did okay, but I remember we played a game against Taylor, and it was a really crummy day, raining, terrible field conditions. And Taylor wasn't a very good football team, so we were pretty well beating them pretty good. So I was like, go in to kick a field goal. The ball is so wet, it slips through the guy's hand, so we missed that one. We go out the second time we score, the guy hits and I missed the field goal extra point. Then we try it again, another one, we miss it again. So I finally missed like 3 in a row, and I'm coming off the field, and I still remember the fullback's father. He's up in the stands. It's really crappy weather. He goes, get that Payne off the field. He sucks. Just real loud. I'm like going, even then I'm going, this is high school.
Oh.
This is high school. Dude.
Timmy, you told a funny story about being embarrassed. Most embarrassed I ever was in sports. I think this is the most I was ever embarrassed in sports.
It's easy.
I just moved to Kansas City, and thank God for football. I was a halfway decent high school football player. And the very first game that I played,
Because you were fast.
the very first game that I played here in Kansas City, I returned kicks. I was a defensive back, and I also was the gunner on the kickoff. And I timed it perfectly and just nail this guy, tackle him. But I managed to kind of like knock myself out in the meantime. And when I was just,
Oh my
laying on
gosh.
I was laying on the field and I look up and I see my coach. And then I notice the person next to him is my mom.
Oh no.
And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing on the field?
Oh my
You don't have to feel
She
bad.
ran out onto the field and I was like, oh my God, that was so much my mom. I mean, she was awesome. But I just, she really got into the sports with me.
This is the end of our last pose, everybody. So we're gonna keep working for a few more minutes, but right now, please post your work. We're gonna hop over to Instagram and check it out. It's hashtag Drawing Hive and add visual passage in the caption.
Did anybody who drew tonight, did they have any other questions?
Yeah, any
Yeah,
art related questions?
I'll keep an eye out in the chat.
Yeah, see if anybody has any questions
What-
about this.
What are you thinking about now, Chris, when you're rendering? What are you?
Well, I'm just trying to get more volume into it now. Now I'm just trying to build the volume. I mean, I could come in. I was trying to think, do I want to come in and start getting like a darker pencil to start getting some of this in? Get a little bit more volume. Thing is, when you're drawing with just a couple tones, it's a question, do I want to bring another tone in or do I want to keep it relatively monochromatic? Because there's something about being a monochrome that's kind of nice.
Well, it's real interesting on that mid-tone paper because most of that you did, I don't know what color you were using, a chestnut or.
Yeah, it's a chestnut.
You have the brown, the white,
Right.
and then the gray mid-tone paper, and that's all you had for a long period of time. So this is a big commitment.
So it's just kind of fun to see about, okay, what if I pop in some of this? So you can get this little bit of darkish tone that's right in this part here. A little bit of that in there. Get that glove pop in there. Eventually that's got to come around that way. But it's just, you're just really, how much more do I really want to? And the thing is also, I don't know about you, John, but I used to always draw from prints now, but I like drawing from at times from the phone because I can blow it up. My old eyes have, I used to be able to see reference like this, but now sometimes seeing some of the details is hard
Right.
as you get older.
The phone helps you.
Here's a question from the audience. This is from a student in Paris. Everybody's names locations. What are some tips for getting a good perspective of a subject?
Well, I mean, first of all, you got to have quality reference that actually has some of it to give yourself a point of reference. You got to be able to see it. I mean, you can do some playing around with perspective from time to time, but I think you need to have at least some kind of point of reference. And are you, like with this particular one, is it, when you talk about perspective, again, is he talking 1 point perspective, 2 point perspective? And what reference does he mean by that? I guess is my one question I have. For me, I just tried, and when I'm doing a picture such as this, I mean, in order to try to get those feet to actually look big, you can see I made them bigger than they are, which kind of makes them look a little clown-like, but I kind of like that forced perspective. It's the kind of thing that you see oftentimes used by comic book artists when they want to create an extra bit of foreshortening. They'll actually increase the size of it. Then you start playing with the value. But the first thing to come off with is give yourself a piece of reference that gives you enough information that you can make those judgments and make those choices.
Well, the other thing that was obvious when you started drawing is just like you envelope that figure. I mean, you put a really you found the shape of it.
Yeah.
Before you got into do any detail, Cassandra did exactly the same thing, painted a flat silhouette shape of it. You happened to do it in line, you lassoed the shape. with line, but it all started with the overall shape.
Yeah. And I mean, that is so critical, is being able to initially get that shaping right, believable.
This
Yeah.
one's interesting too, because this one is a triangle. Like you look at it and you see the triangle, and that helped me think about how to, like, I still don't have it perfect, but it gave me a sense of how to build it.
Right.
Look up, any of you that want to know, look up what enveloping is. And it's just like, imagine drawing a line, just straight lines, not any of the contour around the figure. Just try to do it in straight lines and look at that shape. That's the shape you want to transfer. You want to simplify the shape as much as you possibly can.
And then one last question for the night, from Jackie Graw.
Hey, Jackie.
Did you ever have a day job before art, and how bad did you hate it, Chris?
You know, I was very well. I mean, all my day jobs that I had when I was young were when I was going through college. I was very, very lucky that, and again, it's a sign of the times. When I came out of school, back then, you could actually get a job at a studio as a studio artist, because this is long before fax machines and Federal Express. And so I was working at a studio in Akron, Ohio, where we were basically facilitating, creating artwork for the clients that were in the Akron region. So you could actually get a job as a studio. Those studio jobs don't exist anymore, because those people in Akron can work with artists in Los Angeles as easily as they can work with an artist in Akron. So those jobs didn't exist. So I was blessed in the sense that my first job out of college was working as a studio artist. Now, the artwork I was doing, you may not consider exciting, because I was working out of Akron, Ohio. That meant I was drawing a lot of pictures of cars and tires, because that's what's made in Akron is tires for automobiles. So I was doing a lot of that stuff, and you may not consider it exciting, but I was learning about art directors. I'm learning about solving problems for clients, meeting deadlines, dealing with changes, dealing with account executives, the frustration of, working hard on a piece that you think is really good, and they come back with changes that you may not agree with, but it's your job.
So your first real job was an art job?
Yeah, my first job was an art job. I mean, prior to that, when I was in college, I mean, I was doing everything else everybody else did. Mow lawns. I worked all the way through college.
I have not this Monday, the next Monday, not the holiday. So on the 5th of June, Ray Bonilla is doing a guest speaker with us for Studio Bridge. He's interviewing John Rush.
Oh, wow.
Really, really great illustrator. And John Rush sent me a email the other night and said, I don't know if you knew this or not, but your father got me my first job. And I got such a kick out of that. Somebody that I've never really met before, just saying, hey, I'm never indebted to your father, because he recommended me for a job at Jack O'Grady's studio. And he had just seen John's work he was speaking at a school, and he said it was such a funny thing to have your father call me while I was still in college and said, are you interested in this job? And of course he, jumped at it.
And the rest is history.
Yeah,
man, that guy
he's an amazing artist, and it's going to be a really good talk.
Yeah, is he still in Chicago?
Yes, still there. Was he connected to Sigliano? Did they?
I don't think they worked at the same studio. I don't think so. I may be wrong in that.
Yeah. All right, looks like we're ready to look at stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you just want to check it out?
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that one.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
Ooh.
We're going to see them all go by here.
Oh, nice, Sally.
Oh,
Very
great
well
job,
done,
Sally.
Sal. That's my cousin.
Oh, look at the color in that one. Yeah.
Oh, Charlotte, that's lovely.
Love it.
Wow.
Ooh, Ish, awesome.
They made it a card. Pretty
Oh,
smart.
that's great.
somebody did
I love
that.
that.
Nice drawing.
Nice.
There you go.
Wow.
Really nice.
Very
Good
good.
job. Mhm.
Cool.
See, that's how
Good.
I would have zoomed.
There
in.
we go. Boy, that has,
Yeah.
man, doesn't that have a Robert Weaver feel
Yeah.
to it?
Very immediate.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
done.
Oops, I should leave that up.
Oh, nice, Felicity.
11-year-old Felicity.
Yeah.
Well done, Felicity.
Ooh, Jeff, that's cool.
Very nice, Jeff.
Whoa.
Way to go, Peter.
Ooh, really nice.
Peter, you're gonna have to start working faster. Look at that.
Wow.
Well done.
Great
Shoot.
job.
Woo, man.
So good.
Look
Very
at
well.
that.
Yeah, wait.
Ooh,
Love it.
Xander,
Good
that
draw
is
for
Been a
this.
few
Woo,
weeks.
so
that's
good.
got a wonderful
Oh,
feel to it.
wow.
See the
Look at that.
shadows?
Devin, that's awesome.
See, great job on the shadows. Man, good job.
Mhm.
Well done, Devin.
Mhm.
Right, Devin, you're gonna grab that sound bite, right?
Just make it your ringtone.
Yeah.
Great done on the shadow.
That would be so funny. It's just Payne go. Great job on the shadows.
Well,
Dang
Am
it, my
I-
mom's calling.
am I right?
You were right.
Right. When he's right, he's right. Love it.
Oh, wow.
Julian.
Oh, that's lovely, Julian.
Bravo.
Well done, Julian.
So good.
I just saw a beautiful piece of Julian's of
Ooh.
Tina Turner
Yeah, that piece was amazing.
and Peter. Peter did one also. They're beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's fun. That's really fun.
Oh,
Wow.
that's nice.
Oh, I love that.
Made the feet even bigger. Oh,
Good.
nice.
Look at
Gary.
that.
Ooh, Gary. Dang.
Gary can really draw.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
Look at
AJ.
nice colors in that.
Oh, AJ, I love how you handled that. Love the color.
It's a kind of a Fuchs, Robert Reed
Yeah.
approach.
But again, you see, you have good reference, you get good stuff.
Look at that.
Oh, nice.
It's like he's using a brayer tonight.
That's cool.
Wow.
Nice, Gary.
So,
Wow.
if something tells me, I think they like this reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they liked it.
Mhm.
We certainly like the outcome.
And I just want to remind everybody right now, we are enrolling for the summer semester. It doesn't start till July, but the super early bird ends June 2nd, pretty soon. Use discount code ARTSY, $200 off. As mentioned before, we've got an absolutely killer lineup. Carlo Ortiz, Wesley Burt, Zoe Frank. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's amazing.
Jeremy Collins.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeremy Collins. He's gonna text me and be like,
You didn't mention my name.
I'm sure he's listening. Yeah, just don't sleep on it. Sign up now. You wait till the last day, you're gonna have to pay an extra $200. So don't do that.
That's a really nice piece.
Yeah, and got the Cleveland Indians color in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, look at these.
Yeah, everybody. Gosh, you're all knocking it out of the park.
That's almost a pun.
All puns
And
intended.
she meant that. She meant that. She meant that.
Yeah. I'm hip to the cool terms.
Oh man, look at that. Even got
Love
the
your
cast
shadow.
shadow. I love the cast shadow.
Mm.
Oh, that is nice.
Oh,
Wow.
love that. You got such a vintage quality to that.
Love it.
Good
Nice.
job. Good
Nice
job,
job.
Jackie. Oh,
I
I love
think they like the reference.
Look at that.
Ooh, Karen.
Ooh.
So nice. Oh, that's fantastic.
Nice. I like that, like making a limited series trading cards.
Mm-hmm. So fun.
Love it.
Trolling Hive also.
Wow,
So
you got that one down. Got it. Way to go.
Yep. Great gesture there.
I think they liked
That
it.
one too.
Oh,
Man.
wow. Really nice.
Good job, Nicole.
Oh, Nicole.
See, I think they may want to do more baseball. See?
Chris has got us, you know, set up to do baseball for the
Chris,
rest.
it means
of
you have to
the
come back for it. You know, we can't
Right.
do
Yeah.
baseball without you.
Hey, I gave him, I think, about 10 pictures. And there's some juicy ones. And again, there's a new book, I think it's
Very
a new
nice.
book on the dead ball era. A lot of these players, except for Hank Aaron, were players in what they called the dead ball era, which, you know, meant that's when before they were hitting home runs all over the place.
Yeah.
But there was great.
That's really great gestures there.
I just love those
Job,
little
Lynn.
uniforms.
PED ball era.
Yeah, but you know, it's as much the uniforms, you know, those just baggy uniforms. The folds are they're great to draw.
Yeah.
Well, and then having the tight socks for the calves, like it gives a great like contrast to the top of the pant. Like that's just really fun.
Look at that. That's
Yeah, see, look at that. That's killer.
Yeah.
I love how she flattened he or she flattened the horizon line and then the plate and all that. I mean, took a little creative freedom in the piece,
really
and
nice.
it really comes together nice. I may have to steal that.
AJ happens to do that frequently. He does really great work.
Nice, Ocean. This is really nice. I like to hear
That's
this.
wonderful.
Somebody just sent this message. I'm going to read it. I just want to say thank you so much for keeping this alive. Drawing Hive always manages to get me motivated out of an art block. Started drawing again after joining a session where the theme was superheroes in 21, after not drawing since 2017. That's really sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
That's so fantastic.
Yeah, it's the best thing. You just got to do it.
Don't stop drawing.
Yep.
Just
Do not stop.
keep drawing.
Well, before I was talking about it before we started tonight, how helpful it's been for me.
Yeah.
Just as an artist to, you know, force myself. Nice, Kathy.
You know how easy it is? You know how easy it is for me and John to be tired and be like, you know what? Maybe we could put out a recording tonight.
Yeah.
We do it every Thursday, and Cassandra shows up every Thursday. Bill shows
I
up.
drove 7 hours today and then drew.
7 hours today for this episode.
Well, it's like Chris drove from Ohio.
Yeah, it's huge. It means a lot when people say nice stuff like that. So thank you.
And
Yeah.
thank you, Cassandra, for making.
Thank you, Cassandra. Really, I know what you feel because I left Cincinnati at 7 o'clock this morning, pulled in, dropped my wife at the hotel, hopped in the car and drove up here to John's and got here, about 40 minutes before we started.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Well,
a great piece. Well, and that's the
another
thing,
day
that it's
for
so
me.
fun. I love getting to do this. Like, yeah, you shake off being tired and you show up and you draw, and it's helped me so much. It's a great drawing.
Wow. That's awesome, Chuck.
Whoa.
Very nice.
Ooh,
Chuck.
Chuck.
Good job, Todd.
Oh yeah.
Stellar.
Nice.
See, that's got
Oh.
everything there.
Nice.
Oh, I love how you handled that.
I love it. I love the little
fun.
the players down at the bottom. Look at that, Chris.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
perspective. Yeah.
That's delightful.
That's really fun.
Speaking of tall tales, that feels like that illustrates that concept
Doesn't
so
it?
well.
For sure. Love
Oh,
it.
that's good.
Nice,
Jackie.
Jackie. I knew that was yours, Jackie. Nice.
Good job.
Oh yeah. Oh, look at that.
Ooh, that's cool. I love it in blue too. Really well done, Xander.
Oh man, very nice, Chuck.
Wow, Chuck.
Jeez. Beautiful.
Working strong tonight.
John. That's very
Way to turn it into Johnny Bravo.
He's good. Wow.
Wow.
Oh, that's good.
Oh gosh, I love the colors in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlotte, that is fantastic.
So great.
Nice.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good job, Ocean.
There you go, Ocean.
Oh.
Nice.
Wow.
Look at that.
Whoa.
That's stellar.
Oh, I
Great
love
page.
it. Love it. Put 'em
Ooh,
together.
I love that.
What do you
Nice.
With all 4 characters too.
say?
Oh, I love it when Jeff does this. Really cool.
One sequential going on there. Oh, nice, Nicole.
Wow.
That is really
Fun.
great.
Nice.
Got good motion for that.
Fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
All right. All right, everybody. That was our last one. What a
What a
night.
great night.
Just a quick reminder, summer semester, do it now, sign up, discount code artsy. We got fine arts, illustration, and character design all enrolling right now. So other than that, what a fun time. I really enjoyed hanging out with all three of you, and thanks everybody for promoting your art.
I got one more thing I want to say, and Cassandra, thank you so much for doing this. The effort that you went through to get back and draw with us.
Yeah.
I so much appreciate it. And then what I really appreciate is I didn't have to sit and try to keep up with Chris Payne. I didn't have to do
I know you
you
put
had
me
to.
against Chris. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so- and I'm sorry to do that to you, but he's sitting in my spot. You know, I can't draw. He's in my spot. And what a great excuse.
Senior, just for the record, I talked with John earlier this week about setting both of them up. It could have
To
been
make
done.
you feel better. But Chris,
Could've
such a
been done.
pleasure to get
Thank you.